The next quantifier I want to look at is this word many. Okay, what does many mean? The definition of many is just a large amount. But what is a large amount? Well, that's kind of subjective, right? Like reasonable people can reasonably disagree over what counts as a large amount. But as we've seen before, just because something is subjective doesn't mean anything goes. There are, in fact, objective boundaries nonetheless, right? So first, let's recall the quantifier sum. And let's recall that the quantifier sum has a lower boundary of at least 1. This is going to be helpful for us to figure out the lower boundary for many. What is the lower boundary for many? Well, it has to be higher than the lower boundary for some, right? Because if you think about it, if I say like many cats like to drink milk, you can't tell me it's just one cat that likes to drink milk. That's not enough, right? Whereas if it's just one cat that likes to drink milk, then that is enough for some. Some cats like to drink milk. If there's at least one, that's fine. What that means is that this lower boundary for many is higher than the lower boundary for some. How much higher? I don't know. It's kind of ambiguous. 2 cats? Is that enough? I would guess probably not. I mean, if it's 2,000 cats, sure, that's almost certainly enough, but it doesn't need to be that high, I presume. The point is just that it's kind of unclear where this lower boundary starts. But all I know, what is clear, is that it's higher than the lower boundary for some. So on the test, you could just think of many as equivalent to some. Now, let me be very clear about this. That is literally false. We just said that the range of many and the range of some are not the same, right? In that many starts higher than some. But what I am also telling you is that practically speaking, if you equate many to some, I don't think you'll get into trouble for it on the LSAT, right? Because I've never seen the LSAT penalize that kind of false equivalence, that kind of conflation. Instead, I think it's useful to think of many as equivalent to some because it does actually help you avoid a very real and recurring trap on the LSAT, which is that you definitely don't want to confuse many for most. Okay, let's consider an example here. Many birds migrate south each winter. Now, as we've already established, if this statement is true, it must be false that no birds migrate south. It must be false that only 1 bird migrates south. It must be false that 2 birds migrate south. That's just not enough for the claim many birds migrate south to be true, okay? And again, where is the lower bound? I don't know. It's very unclear, right? But it's somewhere, let's just say around here-ish. I mean, look, I know for sure if 300 birds migrate south, that's enough. Right, 300 is probably enough to count as many in this situation. But think about how different this claim is from the claim that most birds migrate south each winter. The quantifier most is making a claim about proportions. It's saying more than half of the birds migrate south. This quantifier many makes no such claim. It does not claim anything about proportions. It is just a claim about quantity. Right? A large number, quantity. For example, maybe 1 million birds migrate south each winter. Yeah, sure. That's certainly enough to count as many. But what proportion of all birds is 1 million birds? I don't know. There are lots of birds. 1 million birds could be just 1% of all birds, right? So you see, this will be a situation where it is true that many birds migrate south each winter because 1 million birds migrate south each winter. But it is not true that most birds migrate south each winter because 1 million birds only represent 1% of birds. Okay, so that's the main distinction between many and most. Most is making a claim about proportions. Many is just making a claim about pure quantity. And you don't want to confuse many for most. And this is why I say it's probably okay, right? If you just equate many to some, because it'll help you avoid confusing many for most. All right, let's review. What have we learned? On the LSAT, you can translate many to some. Technically, this is false. Technically, many only implies some, but I've never seen the test exploit this technicality to our disadvantage. Instead, it helps us avoid an actual trap of confusing many for most.